Speaker Valeth pressed her 4 hands against the cold metal of the command table. Her blue skin had turned pale with fear. Around her, the other leaders of the Kethry Confederacy sat in silence. Their long ears drooped down like wilted flowers. The large screen at the front of the room showed the latest reports. Red dots marked where Vexnari ships had attacked. Each red dot meant millions of dead Kethry. Each red dot meant another world lost. "They hit Narathi Prime 6 hours ago," said Commander Zekel. His voice shook as he spoke. 20 billion people lived there. Now there are only burning cities and empty streets. Valeth closed her large eyes. The Narathi were known for their beautiful songs. Children across the galaxy learned their melodies in school. Now those voices were silent forever. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked. 43, Zekel answered. "The Vexnari have over 3,000. The numbers made no sense. 3 months ago, the Kethari had the strongest defense fleet in their sector. They were peaceful people, but they built good ships to protect their trade routes. The Vexnari Empire had seemed strong, but not this strong. They must have been planning this for years," said Speaker Mortai from his seat near the window. "Building ships in secret, waiting for the right moment." The Vexnari were not like the Kethari. Where the Kethari were plant-eaters who grew gardens and wrote poetry, the Vexnari were hunters. They had sharp teeth and claws. Their ships looked like the metal bones of dead beasts. They took what they wanted and killed anything that stood in their way. "What do they want from us?" asked Speaker Liliana. She was the youngest member of the council. This was her first war, and it showed in her frightened voice. "Everything," Valeth said quietly. "Our worlds, our resources, our people as slaves. We call it the Great Cleansing. They want to remove all plant-eaters from this part of the galaxy." The room fell silent again. Through the window, they could see Kethari Prime below them. The capital city sparkled with millions of lights. Families were having dinner. Children were playing in parks. None of them knew that their government was meeting to discuss surrender. "We could run," suggested Mortai. "Take as many ships as we can. Find empty worlds far from here. Leave 10 billion people behind." Zekel's fur stood up in anger. "Leave them to die or become slaves?" "Better than losing everyone," Mortai shot back. They had been having this same argument for days. Run or fight.
Ow.
It showed all the known species in their part of the galaxy. Most were like the Kethry, peaceful traders and explorers. Fewer warriors, but none strong enough to stop the Vexnari. Then her eyes stopped on a small yellow star near the edge of the map. Next to it was a blue and green world marked Cell3 and Earth. "What about the humans?" she said. The other speakers looked confused. "The new species," Valeth explained. "They just joined the galactic community last year. They sent ambassadors to the welcome ceremony on Centauri Station." Zekel pulled up the human files on his datapad. "Yes, I remember them. Strange little beings. They only have 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin has no fur and no scales. They seemed very interested in our art and music. They were so polite," added Liliana. "They kept asking questions about our poetry and our songs. Very cultured people." Valeth nodded. She remembered the human ambassador, a small female with dark skin and kind eyes. The woman had spent hours learning about Kethari flower gardens. She seemed amazed that people could grow food and beauty in the same place. "They might help us," Valeth said. "Not with weapons. They seem too gentle for that. But they could take our refugees, give our people a place to live while we figure out what to do." "It's worth asking," agreed Mortai. "What's the worst they could say?" "No?" Zekel worked on his datapad. "I'm looking at their world. Sol 3. They call it Earth. The reports say it has lots of water and green plants. Their air is similar to ours. Our people could live there if needed. Send them a message," Valeth decided. "Tell them what's happening. Ask if they can help." "Kind of help?" asked Liliana. "Refugee ships, medical supplies, food for the survivors. Maybe some of their scientists could help us find new worlds to settle." The other speakers agreed. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was better than nothing. Zekel began typing the message. His claws clicked against the keys as he chose. each word carefully. "People of Earth," he wrote. "We are the Kethry Confederacy. We met your ambassadors at Centauri Station. We are in great danger. The Vexnari Empire is destroying our worlds and killing our people. We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight such evil. We have nowhere else to turn. Please, if you can help us, we will be forever grateful. We do not ask you to fight for us. We only ask for mercy for our children and our elderly. We can send you star charts and safe routes to our remaining worlds. Time is running out. Please help us." He read the message out loud. The other speakers nodded their approval. "Send it?" Look, the message flew through space faster than light. It would reach Earth in 6 hours. None of the Kethry knew what they had just done. They thought they were asking gentle gardeners for help growing flowers in a new place. They had no idea. They were about to wake up the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The answer from Earth came back in 4 hours. It's not 6. Speaker Valeth was trying to sleep when the communications officer called her. She had been dreaming about her garden back home. In the dream, the flowers were still blooming and no ships were burning in the sky. "Speaker, we have a response from the humans," the officer said through the door. Valeth got up quickly. Her heart was beating fast. Maybe the humans would help. Maybe there was hope. She walked to the command center where the other speakers were already waiting. They all looked tired. None of them had slept well since the war started. "Play the message," Valeth said. The screen lit up. A human appeared. This was not the gentle ambassador they had met before. This human was tall and had short gray hair. Her eyes were cold, like winter metal. She wore a dark uniform with many small metal decorations on it. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Navy," the human said. Her voice was calm, but hard. "We have received your request for assistance, aid package en route. Please, provide exact coordinates for all Vexnari fleet positions, supply bases, and command centers. We will require detailed star charts of the combat zone and information about enemy ship types and weapons. Time is important. Send this information immediately." The message ended. The Kethry speakers looked at each other in confusion. "That's not what we asked for," said Liliona. "She wants to know where the Vexnari ships are," said Mortai. "Good, why would they need that information to send refugee ships?" Zakal was checking his datapad. "Admiral," he said slowly. "It's a military title." She said Space Navy, not Space Medical Corps or Space Refugee Service. Valeth felt something cold in her stomach. Maybe they want to avoid the dangerous areas when they come to pick up our people. But even as she said it, she didn't believe. Another message came in. This time, it was text only. "Kethry, command. This is U.S. Retribution. We are 3 hours out from your position. Prepare landing zones for military equipment and personnel. We will need ammunition, supplies, and fuel for extended operations. Admiral Chen sends her regards." "Extended operations?" whispered Leona. "U.S. Retribution," said Zekel. That doesn't sound like a medical ship." The communications officer looked up from his station. Speakers were getting more signals.
Lots of them.
"They're coming from the direction of Earth." "Refugee ships?" asked Valeth, hopefully. "I don't think so. The energy readings are very high, much higher than any civilian ship should have." 3 hours later, the human ships arrived. They came out. A faster-than-light travel, like metal sharks jumping out of dark water. There were 12 ships in the first group. They were not the round, peaceful ships that most species used for exploration and trade. These ships were long and sharp. Looked like weapons that someone had decided to put engines on. The biggest ship was almost 2 kilometers long. Its hull was dark gray, almost black. Along its sides were rows of things that looked very much like gun barrels. Many gun barrels. "That's the U.S. Retribution," said the communications officer. "It's trying to talk to us." Admiral Chen appeared. On the screen again. Behind her, Valeth could see other humans in the same dark uniforms. They were all moving quickly and speaking into small devices. The room looked like a place where wars were planned. "Kethry Command, this is Admiral Chen. We are in position. and ready to begin operations. I need those Vexnari coordinates now. We have limited time before they realize we're here. Admiral Valeth said carefully, "We appreciate your quick response. But we were hoping for humanitarian aid. Medical supplies. Ships to evacuate our civilians." Admiral Chen looked confused for a moment. Then something like understanding crossed her face. "Speaker Valeth, isn't it?" she said. "I think there's been a miscommunication. You sent us a distress call about an enemy force committing genocide against your people. We responded appropriately. We asked for help with refugees," Mortai said. "The best way to help refugees," Admiral Chen said, "is to stop the people trying to kill them. Can't evacuate 10 billion people while someone is shooting at the evacuation ships." She was right, but that wasn't what the Kethry had meant. "We're not asking you to fight," Valeth explained. "We just need somewhere safe for our people to go." Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, but still very serious. "Speaker, how many people have the Vexnari killed?" "Almost 30 billion so far," Valeth said quietly. "And how many more will they kill if we just evacuate some of your people and leave?" Valeth didn't want to answer that question. "All of them," she finally said. "Then the choice is simple," Admiral Chen said. "We stop the Vexnari, or everyone dies. There is no middle option." Before Valeth could answer, alarms started going off. The communications officer looked up from his station with wide eyes. "Speakers, we have a problem. Vexnari ships are coming. A lot of them. They must have detected the human ships." "How many?" asked Zekal. 200, maybe more." On the screen, Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Perfect," she said. "Send me those coordinates now, Speaker. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens our friends." But Admiral Valeth said, 200 ships against 12? You can't win." Admiral Chen's smile got bigger. "Speaker," she said, "you really don't know anything about humans, do you?" The screen went dark through the command center windows. The Kethry could see the human ships moving into formation. They moved like hunters getting ready to attack. Vahilith realized they had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were calling for gardeners and artists. They had called for something much more dangerous. War Commander Thekvar of the Vexnari Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bloodclaw. His red eyes glowed with excitement as he watched the enemy ships on his screen. 12 ships, he growled to his officers. The Kethry have allies now. How pathetic. The Vexnari were tall and covered in black scales. Their hands ended in sharp claws, and their mouths were full of pointed teeth. They had conquered 40 worlds in the last 5 years. No one could stop them. "What species are they?" asked Subcommander Krytel. "Unknown," said the sensor officer. "The ships don't match any design in our database," Thekvar laughed. It sounded like metal scraping against stone. "It doesn't matter. 12 ships against 200, we will crush them like insects." On his screen, he could see the strange ships moving into a line. They were smaller than Vexnari warships, but moved faster. Much faster. "Send them a message," Thekvar ordered. "Tell them to surrender now, and we will kill them quickly." The communications officer sent the message. A few minutes later, an answer came back. A small creature appeared on the screen. It had pale skin and no claws. Its teeth were flat and useless. Thekvar had never seen anything like it. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Navy," the creature said. "You are threatening our allies. Leave this system immediately, or face the consequences." Thekvar and his officers began laughing. The sound filled the bridge like the roaring of angry beasts. "Did it just threaten us?" gasped Kretel, between laughs. "Look at it," Thekvar said. "No claws, no fangs, no scales for protection. Kind of weakling species send something like that to war?" He activated the communication system. "Little mammal," he said. "I am War Commander Thekvar. I have killed more enemies than you have hairs on your tiny head. Surrender now, and I will add you to my collection of trophies." The human admiral looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not the smile of something afraid. She said quietly. "Back on Earth, we have creatures like you. We call them crocodiles. Big. Lots of teeth. Very scary looking." She paused. We turned them into shoes and handbags. The communication ended. Dekvar felt his anger rising. How dare this weak creature insult the mighty Vexnar? All ships, attack formation, he ordered. Destroy them. Vexnari fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Their ships were huge and covered in weapons. They had never lost a battle, but something strange happened. As soon as the Vexnari ships started moving, the human ships disappeared. Where did they go? Dekvar demanded. I don't know, sir, said the censor officer.
Us.
They were there, and now they're not. I'll find them. The censor swept the area. Nothing. It was as if the 12 ships had never existed. Then explosions started happening. The first Vexnari ship to die was the Bone Crusher. One moment it was flying toward where the humans had been. The next moment, something hit it from the side and tore it in half. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. What hit us? The Kvar screamed. I don't know, sir. There's nothing there. Another ship exploded, then another. The Vexnari were dying, but they couldn't see what was killing them. Some kind of stealth technology, said Kretel. They're there, but we can't see them. Fire everywhere, Thekvar ordered. Fill space with weapons fire. The Vexnari ships began shooting in all directions. Green energy beams and metal projectiles filled the darkness. But they were hitting nothing but empty space. More Vexnari ships died. Then, suddenly as they had vanished, the human ships reappeared. They weren't where the Vexnari expected them to be. They were scattered throughout the Vexnari formation, moving between the larger ships like sharks swimming through a school of fish. How did they get inside our formation? Thekvar demanded. The human ships were not fighting like any enemy the Vexnari had ever faced. They didn't line up and shoot. They didn't try to ram their enemies. Instead, they moved like living things, always turning, always dodging, always attacking from unexpected angles. And their weapons were terrifying. One human ship fired something that looked like a ball of light. When it hit a Vexnari cruiser, the entire ship folded in on itself and disappeared. Just gone, as if it had never existed. Another human ship shot. Metal rods that moved so fast they punched clean through 3 Vexnari ships in a row. The rods were so small that sensors could barely detect them, but they hit with the force of meteors. Their weapons, whispered the sensor officer. They're using gravity itself as a weapon. In those metal rods. They're moving at almost the speed of light. The Vexnari had always won their battles through strength and numbers. They built big ships with big guns and crushed their enemies with raw power. But the humans were fighting like something that had learned to hunt much bigger. Stronger prey. They used the Vexnari ships' size against them. They hid behind asteroids and used them as weapons. They fired from impossible angles and disappeared before the Vexnari could shoot back. And they were talking to each other. The Vexnari communication systems picked up fragments of human chatter. But instead of panic or fear, the humans sounded excited. Nice shot, Thompson. You got 2 with 1 rod. Chen, enemy cruiser on your 6. I've got him. All ships, new target priority. Take out their command vessel.
Ow.
They sounded like they were enjoying themselves. In 20 minutes, half the Vexnari fleet was gone. The rest were trying to run. Retreat, Thekvar ordered. All ships retreat to hyperspace. But the humans had thought of that too. As the surviving Vexnari ships tried to escape, they found that something was jamming their hyperspace drives. They were trapped. Impossible, Thekvar said. No one can jam hyperspace. On his screen, Admiral Chen appeared again. War Commander Thekvar, she said. I believe you mentioned something about adding me to your trophy collection. On his ship, the last of the Vexnari fleet was dying. What are you? He whispered. Admiral Chen smiled again. This time, Thekvar could see something in her eyes that made his blood run cold. It was the look of a predator that had cornered its prey. We're humans, she said simply. And you just learned why nothing else on our planet evolved to be smarter than us. The blood claw exploded in a ball of fire. In the command center of the Kethry station, Speaker Valeth watched the battle end. Around her, the other speakers sat in stunned silence. 200 Vexnari ships had been destroyed in less than an hour. The humans had lost nothing. "What have we done?" whispered Liliana. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light in the Galactic Council chambers on Centauri Prime. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered around holographic displays. They watched the recordings of the human fleet, destroying 200 Vexnari ships without losing a single vessel. Ambassador Kelthan of the Zephyrian Republic spoke first. His tentacles trembled as he pointed at the screen. "This is impossible. The Vexnari Empire is the strongest military. In this sector, how did 12 ships defeat 200? The humans must have some new technology," said Counselor Vrim of the Stellar Confederation. "Some kind of superweapon we've never seen before." But Ambassador Heshkar of the Mollusk Alliance was reading through data files on his tablet. Shell clicked nervously as he scrolled through the information. "I've been looking at the reports from our first contact with Earth," he said quietly. "We may have made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" asked Kelthan. Heshkar projected the Earth files onto the main screen. "Look at their planet classification." The room went silent as they read the data. "Class 12 Deathworld," whispered Counselor Vrim. "That can't be right. The humans seemed so peaceful." "Keep reading," Heshkar said. The file showed pictures of Earth. At first glance, it looked beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. But as they read the detailed reports, the truth became clear. Earth was a nightmare. The planet had weather that could kill. Storms with winds that moved faster than most spacecraft, water that fell from the sky hard enough to dent metal, ice that could freeze a being solid in minutes. The ground itself was dangerous, shook without warning, opening cracks that could swallow cities. Mountains exploded and threw melted rock for hundreds of kilometers. The very air could catch fire, and the life forms. Look at this creature." Kelthan pointed at an image. "They call it a shark. It has hundreds of teeth and can smell one drop of blood in an ocean." "And this," said Vrim, showing another picture. "A bear. It weighs as much as a small vehicle and can run faster than most beings can fly." The files showed thousands of species that existed only to kill other species. Plants that ate animals. Animals that ate plants. Everything eating everything else in an endless cycle of death. "But the humans," said Heshkar, "evolved to be the top predator on this world of horrors." He showed them a human skeleton. "See how their eyes face forward? That's the mark of a hunter. Plantitors have eyes on the sides of their heads to watch. For danger, predators have eyes in front to track prey. Their teeth," added Kelthan, studying the image. "They have sharp ones for tearing meat and flat ones for grinding plants. They can eat anything." Vrim was reading about human history. It says here they spent most of their development fighting each other. They've had thousands of wars. They've invented hundreds of ways to kill. "Look at their art," Heshkar said, showing images from human culture. "Half of it is about war and death. They write songs about battles. They make games about fighting. They create stories where the hero wins by being more violent than the villain." The ambassador from the Crystalline Collective spoke up. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "But they seemed so interested in our music and poetry during first contact. Because they were studying us," Heshkar realized. "Learning about us. That's what predators do. They watch their prey before they strike." On the main screen, the recordings of the battle played again. But now, the representatives saw it differently. The human ships didn't just fight well. They fought like creatures that had spent millions of years learning to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. "The way they disappeared and reappeared," said Kelthan. "That's ambush hunting, like big cats hiding in tall grass."
And how?"
"They separated the Vexnari fleet," added Vrim. "Pack hunting. Wolves do that." "Psychological warfare," Heshkar said. "Making the enemy afraid before the real fight begins." Classic predator behavior. They began to understand that humans had not developed space travel to explore the universe. They had developed it to escape their own planet before it killed them. But they had brought their planet's lessons with them. Another ambassador spoke up. What about their diplomatic missions? They were so polite, so peaceful. Ishkar found another file. Human diplomacy is just another form of hunting. They call it knowing your enemy. They were gathering information about every species they met. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They know all of our weaknesses, whispered Vrim. Our military capabilities, our trade routes, our political systems. How many human ships are there? Asked Kelthan. Heshkar checked the files. The report says they have a defensive fleet of several thousand ships. But now I'm wondering, what humans consider defensive? They watched the battle recordings one more time. The efficiency was terrifying. No wasted movements. No unnecessary destruction. The humans had killed exactly what they needed to kill and stopped exactly when the threat was eliminated. They're not just warriors, Heshkar said quietly. They're apex predators with technology. The Crystal Ambassador's voice chimed with fear. What do we do? Before anyone could answer, an emergency signal came through. It was from the border worlds near Vexnari space. Council members, the message said, we have an urgent report. The human fleet has not stopped after defeating the Vexnari task force. They are moving deeper into Vexnari territory. They appear to be hunting. On the screen, new data showed human ships appearing throughout the Vexnari Empire. Not random attacks, but coordinated strikes. They were hitting supply bases, communication, centers, and shipyards. They were cutting the Empire apart piece by piece. They're not just defending the Kethry, Vrim realized. They're destroying the entire Vexnari Empire. In less than a day, added Queltz, then the reports kept coming in. Vexnari colonies were surrendering without fighting. Entire fleets were fleeing to distant systems. The empire that had terrorized this part of the galaxy for decades was collapsing. The humans aren't just winning, Heshkar said. They're sending a message to the galaxy. What message? Asked the Crystal Ambassador. Heshkar looked at the images of burning Vexnari ships on his screen. That they are the new apex predators. And that anyone who threatens their friends will be hunted down and destroyed. The council chamber was quiet, except for the sound of the Crystal Ambassador's nervous chiming. Finally, the Kelthan spoke. We need to send a message to all members of the Galactic Council. Emergency session. We need to discuss how to handle our new ... neighbors. What should we tell them? Asked Vrim. Heshkar closed the Earth files and looked around the room. That we just learned why humans are the only intelligent species on their planet, he said. Because they killed everything else that tried to be smarter than them.
Outside.
The council chamber's news feeds across the galaxy were updating with the same story. The Vexnari Empire was falling. The humans were coming. And everyone was starting to understand that the galaxy had just gained a new alpha species. 3 weeks later, the war was over. The Vexnari Empire no longer existed. Their capital world had surrendered after watching human ships turn 3 of their moons into asteroid belts. The remaining Vexnari military had scattered to the far edges of the galaxy, too afraid to even send distress signals. Speaker Valeth stood in her office, looking out at Kethry Prime below. The city lights twinkled peacefully, just as they had before the war. Children played in parks. Families had dinner together. Life had returned to normal, but everything had changed. A soft chime announced a visitor. Admiral Chen walked in, but she was not wearing her dark military uniform. Instead, she wore simple civilian clothes. She looked almost like the gentle human. Ambassadors from First Contact? Almost ectocide. Valeth, Admiral Chen said with a warm smile. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Admiral. Valeth replied carefully. Or should I say Ambassador Chen? Just Sarah, please. The war is over. I'm here to talk about the future. They sat at a small table near the window. Sarah poured tea from a pot she had brought. The smell was pleasant, like flowers from Valeth's garden. This is from Earth, Sarah said. Call it chamomile. It helps people relax. Valeth took the cup with trembling hands. Sarah, what are your people going to do with us now? Sarah looked surprised. What do you mean? You could conquer us easily. Your 12 ships destroyed the most powerful empire in our sector. Entire military couldn't stop one of your vessels. Sarah sipped her tea quietly for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle. Vaelith, why would we want to conquer you? Because you can. Because that's what powerful species do. Is that what you would do? If you had our strength? The question caught Vaelith off guard. I know, we're not conquerors. Neither are we, Sarah said simply. But the war, the way you fought, the Vexnari Empire. The Vexnari were killers. Sarah said, and for a moment her eyes went cold. They were committing genocide. We stopped them. You destroyed them completely. Yes. There was no emotion in Sarah's voice when she said it. Some predators can't be reformed, have to be eliminated to protect the innocent. Vaelith set down her teacup. That's what frightens us. You talk about eliminating an entire species like it's normal. Sarah was quiet for a long time. She stared out the window at the peaceful city below. Vaelith, can I tell you about Earth? I've read the reports. Class 12 Deathworld. The reports don't tell the whole story. Sarah's voice became softer. Yes, our planet is dangerous. Yes, we evolved to be hunters. But do you know what else we evolved to be? Vaelith shook her head. Protectors, Sarah said. On Earth, the strong protect the weak. Parent animals die to save their children. Pack animals fight together against larger predators. We learned that survival isn't just about being the strongest. It's about taking care of each other. She pointed out the window at the city. That's why we came when you called. Not because we wanted to conquer anyone, because people were being hurt and we could help. By destroying their attackers, sometimes that's the only way to help. The voice was sad now. We didn't want to wipe out the Vexnari. We gave them chances to surrender. Most of their colonies gave up without a fight once they saw what happened to their military. What happens to them now? The survivors? They'll be relocated to distant worlds where they can't hurt anyone. Some of them might even learn to be. Peaceful children can be taught better than their parents. Vaelith thought about this. And what about us? What do you want from the Kethar? Sarah smiled, and this time it was completely genuine. We want to be friends. Real friends. We want to trade with you, learn from you, share knowledge and culture. We're so weak compared to you. Strength isn't everything, Sarah said. You have music that makes our hearts soar. You have poetry that teaches us about beauty. You grow gardens that turn empty dirt into paradise. We have a lot to learn from you. And if we refuse your friendship, Sarah shrugged, then we'll be sad, but we'll respect your choice. We'll trade with others and leave you alone. You wouldn't force us? Force you to be our friends? Sarah laughed. That's not how friendship works. There was a long silence. Vaelith could hear children playing in the park below. Their laughter drifted up through the window. The other species in the galaxy are afraid of you, Vaelith said finally. I know, we've been getting messages. From the Galactic Council. They want to meet with us. What will you tell them? Sarah stood up and walked to the window. The same thing I'm telling you, we're not conquerors, we're protectors. Anyone who wants to live in peace has nothing to fear from humanity. And those who don't want to live in peace? Sarah's reflection in the window showed her cold smile again. They should ask the Vexnari how that worked out for them. Vaelith joined her at the window. Below them, the city sparkled with life and hope. There's something else, Sarah said. We'd like to establish a permanent base in this system to help protect Kethry's space from any future threats. You want to stay? If you'll have us, think of us as ... guardians. We'll keep the predators away so you can focus on growing your gardens and writing your poetry. Vaelith felt a strange mix of relief and fear. And if we say yes, what does that make us? Safe, Sarah said simply. It makes you safe. A week later, the Kethry Council voted to accept humanity's protection. The vote was unanimous. Construction began on Terra Station, a joint human-Kethry facility in orbit around Kethry Prime. Human warships would patrol the system borders while Kethry scientists and artists worked alongside human researchers and engineers. The news spread across the galaxy quickly. The Kethry Confederacy was now under human protection. Other peaceful species began to wonder if they could make similar arrangements. Within a month, 12 other species had requested human protection. The humans accepted them all with the same gentle smile and the same quiet promise. live in peace. And you have nothing to fear from us. Try to hurt the innocent. And learn why nothing on Earth was foolish enough to evolve bigger teeth than humanity. Speaker. Valeth stood in her garden, watching human and Kethry children play together under the alien sun. The humans had kept their word. They were protectors, not conquerors. But sometimes, late at night, she would look up at the stars and remember Admiral Chen's cold smile. She would think about the Vexnari Empire that had vanished in 3 weeks, and she would be very, very grateful that humanity considered the Kethry to be friends. Because in a galaxy full of predators, it was good to have the apex predator on your side.